Okay, so good evening once again, everyone. My name is Eva Reyes, and I'm the Director of Parent and Family Relations. I am so glad that all of you are here to talk about this very important conversation. Um, so today we're going to talk about first-gen families and what you should know about the college experience. This is a whole brand new experience for most of you. I know that there are some other families are not first gen in the call, but it is still a new experience for you and your student. So we want to make sure that you kind of have a basis of what to expect this first year as your student transitions to be a William Patterson pioneer, and just have like some like tips for you to take with you as you're helping your student navigate this. So with that said, I'm going to go over a few ground rules with you. So if you've been on a call before, you're already used to them. If not, everyone is on mute. That way we're able to get through the conversation as quickly as possible and finally get to your questions because they are the most like important ones and the most crucial ones. The closed captioning is available. All you need to do is just hit more options on your Zoom taskbar, and then you'll see the closed captioning uh, option on there. The questions could be put in the chat. I'll be, as our presenter is facilitating the session, I'll be monitoring the chat, answering some questions as we go if I'm able to. If not, we're going to leave them towards the end. And again, please provide us your feedback. This is what's going to let me know what kind of sessions you're interested in, maybe not as a pre-orientation session, but as a session as we move through the academic year. So that way you're able to have all the information that you need in order to best support your student. So without further ado, we're going to have our presenter introduce herself.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Pilar Ramirez, and I am the founder and executive director of Generation Fearless. We are a national nonprofit dedicated to supporting first-gen individuals, and we're happy to partner with William Patterson. I'm a proud alum, and as well as a professor for community and power and women and gender studies. So thank you for being here with us today. So our agenda, giving kind of a quick overview of what we're talking about today and kind of why it's so important. Right, first is why questions matter for first-gen families. There's so much that you don't know and you don't realize that you don't know. So to kind of be able to provide a little bit of more of that understanding, give you a little bit of a glimpse of what orientation is going to look like, but mostly what it's going to feel like. Understanding of your first gen expectations just in general, as well as what should families ask, right? A lot of the times you don't know what you don't know and you don't realize the questions that you can ask or who to ask them to. We have a couple of tips and takeaways for family, and then Eva will take it with more announcements and reminders of some amazing other sessions that are coming that you can get kind of more of the meat and potatoes about certain areas. So not knowing what to ask is absolutely normal. I am first generation everything, and I did not know what to ask, didn't know what I was getting myself into, and neither did my mom in order to support. So a lot of first generation college students are navigating without a prior roadmap, right? There isn't someone to help you figure out your next. You might have great support systems at the high school, or may have relatives or friends that are kind of going through the journey at the same time, but sometimes there isn't a person to ask, and that's perfectly fine. Families might not always understand or know university language, process, deadlines, offices, expectations, and we have a pretty good slide on some of the terms that you kind of should know, right? And us teaching because it's its own language. Even as first gen professionals, if you're speaking to someone in a different office, you're like, I don't know what that means. Like, I need you to like, okay, what does this and that mean? So it's not something that it's just students and families that sometimes don't know. It's just a completely different language, and sometimes to that department, to that major, to a specific area. And not knowing what to ask doesn't mean that you're not prepared. It doesn't mean that you don't belong. It just means that it's a new experience. It this means that it's something absolutely brand new to you and your family members, and it is exciting for it to be new. It's not coming from a space of lack of readiness or no not belonging at William Patterson or anywhere. Orientation is going to be the space that hopefully you leave with less questions, but feel have a better understanding of the community and how to be able to navigate that and the support that is going to be there. But a lot of it is really about knowing who you're going to be able to ask the question when the question even comes up. Because certain things are not going to be questions that the families have now or the students have now. They might not even happen at orientation, but it'll be third week of the semester and all of a sudden you just, okay, I don't know what to do here. And our goal is starting at orientation for you to meet the amazing community that's there to support you on the success journey at William Patterson. And families and students are encouraged to ask questions. If something feels unclear, whether it's financial aid, which is complicated in its own world, support services, safety, housing, how to get involved on campus, kind of what is the norm on working on campus, what is the norm and expectations from a student in a class, what is an online course different from hybrid, all of those spaces. We want you to be able to ask the questions, to get clarification, to feel comfortable, as we understand that for a lot of our first-gen students, it is a family experience at altogether, right? So it's not just the student going through this, but it is the whole entire family learning and supporting each other. And lastly, the goal is to leave with more confidence, clarity, and a better understanding of where to go to support. So understanding first gen expectation for us, it was very important to understand kind of the strengths, challenges, and transition points. Because not knowing, right, and it being the very first time, sometimes we can get overwhelmed and not too sure, not realize all the strengths that we're already come with, right? So first generation students are not starting from a place of deficit. And that for us is so important for students to understand. You're bringing all the different strengths that have brought you to where you are now, and it's just a new system, right? So a lot of the resilience, a lot of the things that you have been able to navigate before and use, you're just going to apply that to the college experience a little bit different for students and parents. So how you were navigating K to 12 and certain challenges or certain things that were absolutely new, that's going to be very similar. Students and families, I think, go through kind of that roller coaster of feelings. You're excited and you feel pride and you can't wait to start, but then you feel these levels of pressure and uncertainty and like, did I make the right choice in a major or the building that you live in? Or a parent, like, did I make the right choice of letting them live on campus? Like, how can I support? How can I provide all of that? Having that roller coaster feeling is absolutely normal. And that's why communication and being able to support each other just as a family union is the unit is important, but as well as again to keep it we'll keep referring to asking the right people for that reference. First gen students bring powerful strengths, including resilience, determination, adaptability, sorry, culture knowledge, and motivation. And that's why you were accepted to William Patterson. That is why we know that you're going to be a phenomenal pioneer. So it's always remembering that in those moments of uncertainty, that moment that you're like, oh, I am feeling the pressure. I feel as first gen, there is this extra heavy level of pressure that I felt as a college student of like, I want to make everybody proud at home and I don't want to like bring this level of stress and pressure and I'm supposed to know the answers and I don't know the answers. And sometimes students may feel like they're by themselves. That's why it's so important to stay again in that community and be able to join the first gen club, see the different people on campus. So when you're like, okay, is it just me? And you said in a circle, you're like, oh, it's not just me. We're all like having that feeling. And there's going to be different times in the semester where those challenges will peak, right? I always think that October, it's like, okay, the semester has fully started and work is piling up and I'm starting to miss home and it's 3 o'clock and it's already getting dark and there's a shift and that's okay. No different in the March in the spring semester. But families can support students by reminding them asking questions, I'm sorry, and using the resources as a sign of strength. No one on our campus is going to say, oh, you should have known this. Or what do you mean you don't know? Like we have great partners that are going to be able to say, okay, let me walk you through this and let me help you understand why this is a decision. Or if they don't know the answer, doing a warm handoff to somebody that may be able to have the answer for the students or parents. So orientation at a glance. These are two pictures from orientation last year that I thought were so telling of all the experience, right? All the students in the ballrooms just sitting there like taking it all in. And I feel that even from the picture, you can feel the roller coaster feelings of like, do I know anybody in the room? Oh my God, this is so exciting. Oh my God, the nerves. And the second one in groups, because one of the things that happens at orientation is that we divide the students and the parents, and the students get divided into some of the groups in some groups. So sometimes the students are like, well, I want to kind of stay with my parent. I want to be able to be the translator, right? I was a student that like I translated everything for mommy and helped her understand. Or I was just like, I don't want mommy to leave me. I'm an only child, daughter of an only child. So I was like, oh yeah, no. What do you mean? We got to go in a different space. But it was great for me to start meeting folks. But there are people on campus, throughout the campus that can provide the support. Whether that is in language and finding someone like, hey, I'm not fully understanding. Is there someone that can help translate? Is there additional support that can be provided throughout the orientation? Because it's not just about receiving the information, it's about learning to navigate the university experience for both, right? For the student and the parent. For the parent to know, hey, these are the resources and this is where I can go if I have a question or concern and this is where I can get support. But as well for the student and having an understanding of the levels of independence that you have, but as well as support. And orientation can feel overwhelming, right? It is a lot of people, in addition to the campus staff, in addition to peer leaders, a lot of the students and their families in the space. So it can be overwhelming. So walking in and understanding that and saying, hey, I may need to give myself a minute, looking at the schedule. I may need to ask additional questions when I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening. Sometimes if you don't understand one and two, you're not going to understand everything else. And being like, okay, I'm going to be the person to raise the hand. We may have to go back. I don't understand what credit hours are because then you're not going to understand the schedule or you won't understand other different components. So that becomes very, very important. And being prepared for a long day. And it can be, we were just talking about like information overload. So that's why these little sessions become so important because you can kind of digest the information, start processing, think of questions that you may have, and then be able to have that face to face and say, hey, I want to have more conversation about residence life or financial aid or anything like that instead of it being kind of the first time that you're looking at it. So understanding first year expectations. So the first year, like we mentioned, is a year of major transition, academically, socially, emotionally, and financially. A lot of the times, as first year students, we're so focused on the academic and don't realize that you're growing adults. You're figuring out your new group of friends. Who do you want to spend time with? All the feelings that may come with that, the financial responsibilities that can be overwhelming if there's a student that is, in addition to being a full time student, working and all of that. And that is important to have those conversations with the family of like, hey, what are the expectations that I have for you? Are you coming home on weekends? What are you doing? Are you working? And for the student to be able to say, hey, at this point, I feel overwhelmed. Okay, we're feeling overwhelmed. What are the things that we need to do to kind of provide that support? Students are expected to take more responsibility than in K-12, right? In general, schedule, assignments, communication, and just decision making. So a professor in a class would provide a syllabus and go over that on day 1 and 2, but it becomes the student's responsibility to follow up, ask questions, being able to do their work. And I think one of the biggest differences on the academic side is that a lot of students are used to power schools or different type of systems that you're able to track your work for every single class. It may look a little bit different in college. We do have Blackboard and we have other systems, but it might not resemble the K-12 access or that detailed information. So it's an adjustment. Communication usually goes to the student through university email. So that is something that's a very big change and becomes so important of staying on your email, opening every email, not avoiding and saying, I don't know what that means. Like, okay, you don't know what it means. Seeing somebody on campus from that direct office or academic advisor to get the information. And for the students to have open communication with the loved ones. Okay, financial aid email. If you don't understand and parent is supporting and we're doing this together, sharing that information and asking those questions like, Did you get anything from financial aid? It might be registration time. How are we going to work through this together? And students learn to manage time a little bit differently, right? In K 12, again, we have your day to day kind of just set up, but in college, each day may look completely different. You may have a Monday and Wednesday 9 o'clock class, and you may not have anything until 2 o'clock. And then your Thursdays might be back to back. So it's an adjustment of meeting deadline expectations from your not just your class, but if you're in clubs or organizations, if you're an athlete, home, or you're working. So these are some realities that we don't always think of, right? We're thinking about, okay, I get to go to class and I get to do this, but there's so much planning and growing that happens, which is the beauty of college. And families can support by encouraging independence while remaining steady source of guidance, right? And what we mean by that is like, okay, you're having a challenge. Did you reach out to your academic advisors? Did you speak to your professor and ask for clarification in this? Is this something before we intervene? What are the steps that you've taken so our students have voice and feel that they have agency throughout their time? I always used to tell students, if you pay a lot of money, you should be able to ask the questions and ask for the support, and that's what folks are here for. And lastly, it's normal for students to experience challenges as they adjust, and that's not just year one. That may be year two if there's a change of major, a change of living situation. It becomes a ride of growing and developing, and hopefully you are not the same student right that enters your freshman year that ends and then goes into sophomore year and there's growth and you're finding your voice and your identity as you go. So some helpful questions that families can ask at orientation throughout the sessions and even throughout the academic year is regarding academics, who should my student contact if they are struggling academically? Who is that point of contact that is saved in emails? Like what would be process and protocol? Like sometimes students may say, I'm going to reach out to the president, which there's nothing wrong with that, but who were the first? Did they already reach out to the professor? Did they reach out to the chair? Did they tell their academic advisor? There's a lot of different folks that are there to provide context and support. And that's important to know who's that first person that we reach out to when we're not doing well, that we're struggling because we may need tutoring or we may need additional services that we received before. How does academic advising work? Like we definitely encourage those sessions to be able to ask the questions of what is the processing that happens when we're looking at registration and selecting a major and figuring out your next and careers. Where's the connection and who's there to provide the support? You want to know what that process looks like. But you also want to know, like, hey, is it normal? Like a lot of parents would call and say, hey, is it normal for them to change the major a couple times? Yeah, I would say the most popular major is undecided. You may think you know, but until you're in that class, but it's important to work with your academic advisor to be able to figure out your next, to look at curriculum and find that person that's going to provide that support. Campus well-being in general. What campus resources support emotional wellness and belonging? For the folks that if you aren't feeling like yourself can provide the support, whether that is that you're a commuter student and need the support, or whether that is you're a student that lives on campus that doesn't get to go home on weekends or has different types of challenges. Life happens, right? In addition to being in classes, and you want to know who are the folks that you can reach out to depending on what the challenges are, whether that is campus medical professionals, whether that is emotional wellness professionals, or that is campus social worker, right? We have a plethora of resources and you want to know who to ask to be able to provide sometimes even just guidance on what your next step is. And some other general questions, right? How can I support my student without taking over? Like, okay, I know that they are a student that isn't always on the P's and Q's. How can I support them without kind of taking their schedule and making it for them? Or kind of how do I ask the question of how they're doing instead of accusing them for not doing something? I'm like, oh, I don't know, did you get this class on time? Okay, how can I support you? How can I help? And how will my student know when something important is due? What are the systems that each professor is using? That is another major difference in the college setting is that each professor may use a different format or different teaching styles. Some professors are going to be write text, like the text, or we're reading the text. Others are going to provide different examples and use different platforms. So it's important to be able to, how are you keeping yourself organized? How do you know what's important for each class when there's different expectations happening all at the same time? And some college lingo and what families should know to ask. College has its own language, like we were mentioning before. And sometimes we hear terminology that is new or just confusing, that doesn't kind of make sense. So understanding common college terms can help families better support their student and have the student feel more confident and comfortable in asking additional questions. Some terms, are credit. So a class that is credit bearing or not, and I'll show on the next slide kind of what that means. Your syllabus, your FAFSA, a financial aid package, billing, holds, advising, and registration. Sometimes folks believe that advising and registration are the same thing, and they have two different functions and are both extremely important. Academic standing, FARPA, your student account, and even extremely important, office hours. What's that time that you can go meet with your professor and ask questions and be able to connect? Learning a language not only helps communication easier, it helps you communicate easier, but it gives you, I think, a level of confidence and comfort to be able to say, okay, now I know what I am reading. Now I'm understanding more of what my child is saying. Like, oh, I have 18 credits. Okay, oh, is that a lot? Is that a little bit? Is that, you know what I mean? And those are normal questions, especially in the beginning when you're looking at the schedule and looking at the workload, what is expected based on a major, and all of those areas. And families, like I said, feel empowered to ask for clarification when something's unfamiliar. When something doesn't feel right or there's not enough information on it, it gives you the opportunity. And there is no question that is too small, that is insignificant. Anything is like game in regards to asking, like, okay, whether it's formatting on a paper, which like, hey, I'm not used to MLA, and who can provide support in that in context, to completely looking at your GPA and looking at registration and a senior seminar to even language requirements. There's not such thing that isn't as important. And here are 10 common college words families should know. And one is credits. So those are the units students earn by completing a course. So students can earn from 1 to 3 credits in a course, but we have a couple courses that are 4 credits. A full-time student has 12 credits, so these are areas that become important for financial aid purposes and other things. Your syllabus is your course guide, and a lot of the time it's considered like a contract between the professor and the student that outlines what the expectation of the class is, but what are the topics that are going to be addressed throughout the semester, important dates, exams, um, formats. So some professors may say, hey, you're required to go to tutoring a few times a semester before a test. Or some may say, hey, you have to go to the writing center to make sure, and I need to see proof of that. So all that information traditionally is outlined in the syllabus and kind of becomes your guide when certain things are challenging or just to keep yourself accountable. Office hours. It's a time where you can meet with your professor. All professors have office hours in person and online depending on their availability, but they share that on the syllabus. How do you schedule an appointment with them? What is their preferred way of communication? But you can go and say, hey, I have this upcoming assignment and I'm just not sure how to start it. I started this. Can I get a little bit more reference, more guidance? Or it's an exam and you didn't do as well, or you did fantastic. Like, hey, how do I make sure I stay in this space? How do I make sure to get that A? Your FAFSA, which a lot of you may be already familiar with, which is your application, your free application for federal student aid, your financial aid package, which is the big bag that has all of the money and the big bill. So it has all of your free money, your scholarships, your loans, and you're able to see all of those different components. Billing and student account, which is what that balance is. A hold, if there's any type of restriction placed on a student account, preventing them from registering, from getting a transcript. The student is able to then go ask for clarification and it's like, hey, you have a hold. Where's that hold? And then the student then is able to go to that specific office and say, oh, I have a registration hold or I have a first year foundation hold. And they're able to explain and then help guide your student removing that. The academic advising, which supports the students in the choices of choosing courses, understanding the degree requirements to make sure they stay on track for their degree and are able to graduate in the prospective time. Registration, which is the process of actually selecting the courses online. So a student may attend academic advising and be able to have looked at the classes and have a schedule already planned out, but that isn't official until the student actually registers at their specific time. So just things of that nature. And FERPA, right, which is the federal privacy law that limits what student information the university can share with families without student permission. That's one of those areas that students will have access on their William Patterson portal to complete, and that is what gives faculty and staff on the campus permission to be able to communicate with parents certain areas, whether that's around academics or financial aid. It doesn't matter if the child is underage, so the student may be 17, but they still do their FERPA, and the parent, the university will follow that. But they can explain, okay, well, I'm not able to provide information because of this, and what would be the next step. Let's have a meeting together, let's contact the student, or anything of that nature. How families can support their students, support independence and confidence. Families remain an important part of students' support system during college. Students that are able to do very well are those that have a community, whether that is relatives, friends, family, all of that that helps them through their journey, that they can reach out to on those days that they are overwhelmed and tired, those days that they have finally worked so hard and received a great grade or joined an organization. That becomes their voice of reason, and that grounds them for all the areas. So that's extremely important. The family role may shift depending on what's happening in what area of their life. So sometimes it's like, okay, you're overwhelmed. Okay, give yourself a minute, and being able to coach them through that. You have a lot of feelings. It might be time to stop studying for a bit, get in the shower, go grab something to eat, and then get back to it. You got this. And they're being able to say, hey, are these different resources that you look at? Or hey, did you speak to someone? So that may change depending on what's going on. Students need opportunity to practice independence and self-advocacy. So it's being sometimes clear, and it's like, okay, we've had situations, and it's like my mom, again, I'm an only child, daughter of an only child. Mommy calls every day, all the time. And if I didn't answer my mom, I roll up to campus. And it's like, Mommy, you can't do that. Because I didn't call you yesterday, but it was her learning. Because she was just scared that her baby didn't answer and something might have happened. Right. And it was just like, oh, well, Mom, this is what my schedule looks like. And I was really, really busy. And then he's like, oh, okay, well, you call me by this time. But it was communicating that and figuring out, okay, how often is appropriate? Does she need to, I speak to her every day? Do I need to speak to her every other day? For everyone, it's different. And for every family determines that. And depending on the time of the year and the semester, right? When they're overwhelmed and you're like, oh no, I don't want to speak to anybody. And those times you're like, yep, nope, I got to go check in and make sure they're okay. In those times that it's like, okay, it's a packed schedule, they're really involved on campus, I let them breathe for a little bit. But if it's more than this amount of time, then I should be concerned. Who do I call on campus to make sure they're okay and things are happening? And support looks different depending again on the situation. Sometimes support is just listening, is giving them the space to vent about how the professor is doing too much and I don't have time and I got to read all this and X, Y, and Z. And sometimes that may look a little bit differently, which is helping the student think through the project or the options that they have. And sometimes it's reminding them of the resources that are available. Families can help students build confidence by encouraging them to use their voice, which is extremely important. And it's important to celebrate progress, not just outcomes. So it's like sometimes you studied really, really hard, you took the exam, that's something to celebrate. You worked really hard, you prepared. Okay, now we wait for the results, but we're so proud and excited that you put in the work to be able to take the exam and now move on to your next. And finally, tips and takeaways for the family. Encourage your student to check your William Patterson email regularly. As I mentioned in one of the other slides, that's the main form of communication from the institution. So that is information about a class being canceled. That could be about financial aid. That can be about a new activity happening on campus where they're giving free t-shirts. Anything and everything is coming through their email, so it's important for them to check that regularly. Ask open-ended questions instead of only asking about grades. How are classes doing? How are feeling? Professors still use campus resources early and often. If you don't understand something in the beginning, starting tutoring or the writing center or the amazing or connected to the amazing staff at the library to help you kind of organize yourself and do some of the research is so much easier when the students do it early when they need a little bit of help than at the end when it's a lot of information. It could be then extremely overwhelming. Normalizing to ask help as strength, not as a weakness. Remind your students that they do not have to figure out everything out alone. We have such a huge staff of folks that are there to support the student. And that is to listen and say, okay, I might, again, that might be the person to support this area and I don't know, but I'm going to pick up the phone and call someone who can across the campus who's going to be able to provide you the assistance in this area. Write down questions before orientation, meetings, or important dates. I'm gonna throw in and go to all the small sessions, like listen, digest, and then be able to be like, okay, now I have more questions about X, Y, and Z. And celebrate growth, effort, and the small wins throughout the transition, and be so excited and proud of yourselves as a family and the student who is now going to be able to jump in this transition and be a college student.
Great. Do you want me to go over this one, plus, or do you want to? Yeah? Okay. So, your WP first gen contact is Miss Sonia Wilson. So if your student has a question or wants to get involved as a first generation student, they could always contact Sonia. She is the assistant director of the Career Development Center. She was going to join us this evening, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. She is located in the Student Center on the third floor in the Career Development Suite. And her hours are similar as like all the other university hours. So during the fall, spring semester, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Summer hours, which we are observing currently, are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5:15. I listed her phone number, her email address, and there is a first gen Instagram account. So if you could share the handle with your student is at first gen WPU, so that they could start following the page and get accustomed to all the different programming that are offered throughout the year so that they can get involved. That will be great. So, some announcements and reminders. So like I said before, we're still observing our summer hours. Summer hours are going to be through August 14th. We are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5:15 with Fridays closed. So if you email any of the offices, email me and you don't get a response, let's say you email on Thursday evening, you're probably not going to get a response until Monday. So next week and the week of July 4th, we actually revert back to our regular schedule, which will be Monday. Well, because these are observed on a Friday, we will be open Monday through Thursday, but from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Had the holiday fell on a different day, not like on a Friday or observed on a Friday and was like in the middle of the week, then we will have been open that Friday. But because they are falling the way that they're falling this year, then we will observe Monday through Thursday, but just 8:30 to 4:30. So, I'm still looking for stories to feature throughout the summer in our Pioneer Family Corner. Thank you to those of you who have submitted an interest form. Please keep on submitting them so that I'm able to pick a few families to feature throughout July and August. I love hearing all of or reading everyone's story, and if I love it, I'm pretty sure other families in the portal are also going to love it. So if you could scan the QR code, or if you go back to the email that I sent earlier today, the link is on there as well, so that you're able to share your story. And we still have 4 more pre-orientation sessions. So tomorrow we're having Residence Life and the Hospitality Experience. So if your student is going to be living on campus, or if you're still thinking about your student living on campus, tomorrow's session is going to be very important because we're going to go over Some of the expectations of residential students, some of the things that they should be bringing to campus with them, bedding sizes and things like that, and how to be a good roommate. And also, um, meal plans and things like that. So if you're interested in that stuff, please register for tomorrow's session. Then next week we get into like more financial aid and financial stuff. So June 15th will be making sense of the financial aid package as we plan ahead. Then on Tuesday the 16th, just in conjunction like how we did this first gen session, well, TRIO is support services for first gen students. So if you're still interested in the first gen conversation and how you could best support your student or how the university supports your student as a first generation student, then this will be a good session to attend as well. And then the last session is explaining like what the college cost is going to be. Bills will be assessed the week of July 7th, I believe. Let me just double check. Um, well, the week of July 6th, most likely on July 7th, they're going to be assessed. So, attending this session is going to be critical so that you're able to understand what that bill is going to look like, how the financial aid is applied to the bill, and then if there's like any difference that you will have to kind of like come out of pocket, then how can, as a university, we support you or give you options in order to be able to meet that difference. So if you're interested in that, then you will be able to join that session. Just so that you're aware, bills will actually be due on August 6th. So once you get that bill on or about July 7th, then you'll have about a month to be able to kind of plan out how that bill is going to be paid. But again, the June 17th session is actually going to go over all that. So I highly encourage you to attend that session. And finally, orientation invites already went out both via paper mail, mailers, as well as emails. So if your student did not receive an invitation yet by either one of those forms of communication, it could be because they haven't completed their placement testing. So if they have not, please encourage them to do that as soon as possible. Once they receive the invitation, they could register for any of these dates. So either July 16th, which is a first year orientation, and it's also for EOF and honors students. But just if you're not part of EOF or honors, it's okay. You could still go to that orientation. July 28th is another first year orientation, July 30th. And then August 6th will be for transfer students. So just choose whatever preferred date. With vacations coming up, it's important for your student to register early. That way, if these dates fill up, they don't have to like kind of like wait around to see if anything else opens up later on. Both the student and the family can attend, how we've been discussing previously. And we will split, just so that you know, we will split the student and the family. So students go and have their own orientation experience, and you as a family will have your own orientation experience. We're all going to sit together in one room, and then you will have the opportunity to do breakout sessions to whatever topics you're interested in based on the ones that we're offering. And I host an ice cream social in the afternoon, which is a way for you to meet other families, talk to other families, get to know me a little bit if you want. So I highly encourage everyone to please just make sure that your student registers for orientation and then attend all the sessions and then come to my ice cream social. And like Velasco was saying, you know, during orientation is a great start to kind of like start setting expectations for you and your student. You know, what are the things that your student should be focusing on and what you expect from them, but the same in turn, like what do they expect from you? And at the end of the day, just have fun. It is a really fun day. It's a great experience, and we want you to be able to maximize the most of it. And that's pretty much it for this evening session. Like I said earlier at the beginning, please let me know your input, your feedback is important. This is what's gonna kind of like shape what our year is going to look like and what kind of sessions I'm gonna be having, virtual sessions I'm gonna be having throughout the year. So if you could please fill out the survey and I'll send the link tomorrow, that would be great. But I think there's some questions in the chat. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, I have a question too, but
Yes. So let's see.
chat. There's our chat.
I can jump in and answer one. So it says, how can we get the block removed? Traditionally, the block removes automatically after when registration is happening. So, but if there's any concern specifically, Eva, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So like Palaska said, the freshman hold, it's placed on all first year students. So it's gonna be placed throughout their first semester. Then the hold will be removed on or around October, like late October, because that's when first year students will register on their own for the spring semester. So they'll meet with the academic advisor. They will go over what kind of like schedule they will want, and they will the advisor is going to give them three, I believe it's 3 courses that they have to take, and it will be mandatory coming from the advisor, and those are actually going to be already preloaded on their schedule, and then they'll register for the rest of their courses. So that's when that block is going to be removed. It doesn't we don't remove it before then. Yes, the June 17th meeting is going to be recorded. So I understand that now we're going to get into graduation season for you guys. So we are going to record all the upcoming sessions so that you could go back to them and make sure that you're able to revisit them. When is the EOF program starting and when are they expected to be on campus? I think, and Pulaska, I'm not sure if you know, but I think it's after 4th of July. They start
Just the
online.
first week online.
Yeah, they do
and
the
then
first
they
week
move in
online
usually.
and then they move in. And I believe that the last day is on that August 6th, when that last orientation is happening. So orientation starts, check-in begins between 8:30, and it promptly starts with our welcome address at 9 a.m. And it should be over by 4:30, around there. And that's it for all the questions that we had in the chat. But I know someone had another question. If you could just unmute yourself.
No, is parent gonna come with the student during orientation?
Yes, the parents can come with students.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Is there, I think I missed the housing one, or is that tomorrow?
That's
the one tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Is there a way to know what the layouts of the freshman dorms look like so we can start planning for things dimensionally? Or we have to wait
Yes.
for orientation to do that?
No. The director of residence life is gonna go over that tomorrow.
Okay.
It's too much information to kind of like fit it into one day, and that's why we're breaking them up into these pre-orientation series,
Right.
so that you could go back and like watch the recordings at your leisure, because there's not going to be a residence life session during orientation. There's going to
Okay.
be a residence
And
life.
are you,
Go ahead.
do you email the recordings that for these sessions? Do you
Yes.
email them if you've
The
attended? You
recordings
get the
are
email
going
the
to
next day?
be,
Okay.
yes, are going to be emailed, but I'm also going to start posting them on the portal under the new student
Okay.
orientation community.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we go for the evening? Okay, it doesn't seem like there are any other questions. Pulaska, are there any parting words that you have?
Have fun. I know that there's going to be a lot of feelings. It's always that roller coaster, and it may be scary and it may be overwhelming, but just have fun, ask the questions. There's so many more people that have questions that aren't saying anything, so you're not alone. And congratulations.
So from me, listening through this presentation, there are some things that I'm going to do for you. So I am going to prepare a kind of like a key terms document, and I'm gonna post it on the portal for you to have. That way, if there's like something that your student may talk about, or if there's something that we're talking about and you're just like, I don't know what that is, then you don't want to ask here, then you're able to go to the document and kind of like find it. Um, there's like other things that I am also going to try to do for you just to get you prepped for orientation, like maybe what kind of questions you can be asking your student before orientation and then after and things like that. But the priority is to make sure that you guys feel ready to tackle this new experience and that we're here to support you. And if you have any questions, please, please, please do not hesitate to ask. Just reach out and I'll be more than happy to answer the question. And if I don't know, get someone that, can help us. So with that said, thank you so much and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.